is. Let's say the broker calls, we go through that iteration, and I execute the trade, and then I find out, that I have some kind of trade error on my side, which happens, right? Like, you execute it, you start calling your dealer, you start calling your customers, and you say, okay, you bought 90 basis points, you want to do anything in the aftermarket, and the guy goes, oh, 90 basis points, I was supposed to buy 9 basis points, because that's what the market index, that's what the weight in the index is going to be. Why did I buy 90 basis points? And it's 6:30 in the morning, and this person's yelling at you, right? And I mean, they're really yelling. You're like, oh my God, all right. Now you need to leverage your relationship with that broker and call him back and be like, bro, I'm long 150,000 for this customer. I only need 50. Can you park 100 somewhere else? And like now, let's say, okay, I'm talking to the broker, and he's like, oh my God, all right, let me see what I can do. So he's on the phone with capital markets. He's trying to find a home for, maybe someone else that got cut back on the deal that can use 100, similar to the story I was telling you before, except reverse. If you put Dealogic in between the two of us, now I need to call Dealogic too and say, okay, depending on the robustness of their IOI system and where they're involved in the settlement process. And by the way, Dealogic doesn't owe me anything. I don't do any business with them. I have no relationship with them, and they don't care about the fact that I have a relationship with Morgan Stanley. They're an impediment to me solving this fire or putting this fire out. It's an extra step that I have to go through in order to rebook it. And the same with the broker as well, right?
Understood. But if it were happening immediately in that system, you mean you'd still have to go through the whole rigmarole? I see. So you see that as just an extra step in that process as opposed to actually ameliorating it. Because for book building, I think the dealers actually like that. They like to be able to communicate with each other. It's easier to merge the books on that platform, right, and coordinate amongst themselves. To me, it doesn't sound like, you're so enamored of this whole thing. Yet at the same time, you probably use some form of technology to receive certain things. I mean, I guess the calendar is one thing. You said
No. I think Dealogic is great for the functionality that we use it for. Like we said, the calendar is a huge part. The back screening for discounts on block trades,
right?
Finding out who the sponsors are in a particular placement,
right.
Who the investment banks were that brought the deals, if there's any shelf filings out there already that would help us to acquire stock in a secondary or reverse inquiry. All those things are hugely valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that sounds. That sounds right on that side. So you're not familiar with like iPrio at all. You're getting most of your data from Dealogic and maybe, I don't know, Thomson Reuters.
Dealogic and Bloomberg. Like I have a Bloomberg. Now that's where I just got that information on Snap. It took me 1 second.
Right.
I tell you who the broker was, what the price was, where it came, and how much the stock is down, like like tickety-boo.
But this is more of a pull function as opposed to a push. It's not you're not receiving news of offers. It's more from your dealers or from your sell side partners that you're receiving that information on new issues.
Yep.
And terms and conditions, how are they communicated?
So are you speaking of fixed income on that?
Yeah, I guess fixed income is a lot more. I think equities is a little more straightforward, is it not? But
yeah, I don't want to speak to that because I don't know. But given the on deals where I've done like convertible bonds before, which our shop considered equity because the end state is an equity position. You're getting the coupon rate. You're getting the payment dates, all of those variables. You're also getting off the phone.
You're getting them off the phone as well. Do you think that would be easier done, electronically on a platform?
Probably. Because there's so many more variables involved in that. I can see the business case case for that where that would actually, reduce the amount of errors maybe you have, like when you're setting up the security? Because if it's a new, it really only happens when there's a new issue where, you've got to find the back office has to find the QSIP and set up the security and put in all the variables as far as the accrual schedules and that sort of stuff. That's I could see a case for that, but for the simple equity side, it seems like it's almost you're instilling a solution to a problem that might not exist.
Yeah, it's a hammer looking for a nail, basically. So that I understand. Now, in terms of the allocations, once the deal goes through, they tell you how much you got on there. Is there then a manual interface with then the post-trade systems? Because obviously you're also going to have to do the other allocations, which is to the funds themselves, right? Because I think you get a block allocation.
So as I'm taking an order, okay, let's say I've got 10 fund managers,
right.
And I'm getting 1 or 2 orders a day, and the book build is 5 days. And the analyst, I've looped in with the analyst, and he says, "Oh, I know that portfolio manager XYZ cares. He told me he was going to buy some." I'm like, "Well, he's not in the book." Then you make a proactive call to that person, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's right. Put me in for 50 basis points." So you've been building your own book internally as you go, and that that has persistence, right? So those are good till cancel orders that stay in the system overnight. So you may have, one manager buying 100 on day 1. Then you get 2 orders on day 2, so you have 3 managers buying a total of 300, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Yep. And so you've got all that information at your fingertips, and then as soon as all you need to do is get the actual allocations from the investment bank, and put in the variables and execute the trade. And then
the question that I have, though, Greg, is when you're providing your indication of interest and they come back with the allocation, are they doing it on a fund-by-fund basis, or are they giving you just one big block and then you decide how it's going to be allocated to the various funds that comprise that block?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So our system had built-in logic that did the executions for you. So, and the weightings sometimes, like it's not just straight. You came in for 100, you came in for 100, you came in for 100, equal pro rata.
Yeah.
It depends, like on some shops, the allocations can be based on assets under management. Some shops can be based on, chronology of like when the PMs came in. I've heard all different variations.
So there are different allocation methodologies basically in there. And is this part of the OMS, or is it part of the post-trade system?
It's in the OMS.
So it's in the OMS. So once the allocations come through, you're going to input it into the OMS, I assume.
No, well, when you say when you get the allocation,
when they come back to you, when the sell side gets back to you, they tell you, okay, you guys just got 300 million shares in this.
You're booking, as far as they're concerned, you're booking like one ticket of 300 million.
Yeah.
Unless you have 20 funds that comprise that 300 million,
right.
That executes all off in the system, and then it goes downstream to Oasis, Global Oasis, if you will. And then they go and match it on a ticket-by-ticket basis, starting at the header of 300 million, and then whatever funds are comprised with that.
Got it. And is Morgan Stanley the one that's going to take care of that? Are you going to be matching with Morgan?
Right.
Got it. So Morgan will also have your allocations on Oasis. Obviously, they're going to, you're going to be able to provide that, and it'll be then matched through that Omgeo platform. And
right.
Got it. And obviously settlement takes place. So
that all falls under the simple title of booking and delivering.
Okay, so that's all booking and delivering, as you mentioned before. Morgan Stanley, in some cases, would be that booking and delivering agent for this exercise. Is there anything that can improve that process? So you, as you said before, you get the 300 million. The 300 million will go into the system, and I